Hello to anybody watching. As you can see from whatever social media platform this is that I posted it, I'm Tessa, and for those of you who do know me, I'm a type 1 diabetic. And clearly it's November, so November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and I did try to go along with the awareness. Man, I'm also getting sick because it's November. So I tried to go along with the awareness challenge. It didn't quite work out for me because being consistent is kind of hard. But I decided that I would go ahead and sorry, I got distracted. I thought I would go ahead and show you guys how to put on a sensor. So my sensor expired today, and what the sensor does is I can wear it for 7 days, and ultimately it will track my glucose levels. And so let me see if I can show y'all. You'll be able to see a green range, and then you'll be able to see everywhere else that my levels were. So I don't know how well y'all can see that, but there's a green level that I didn't do a good enough job staying in. But luckily I have the sensor for the sensor to let me know whenever I go out of range, so that I know how to correct it, or to predict when I'm about to go out of range, depending on how it goes. So this sensor, I can wear it for 7 days. It links up to my insulin pump that gives off little bits every 3 to 5 minutes, just to make sure that I attempt to maintain homeostasis. So for those of you who don't have diabetes, you have a working pancreas that naturally does this whole sensor thing for you. And how that works is I'm actually not 100% sure because my body doesn't do it. And I only looked into it after I got diabetes, so I only looked into how the diabetics have to deal with it. So anyways, I feel like I've done a lot of talking. How I do this is I just removed it from here. I don't know if you can really tell because of the sun, but I have a little bruising here, and you're gonna want to rotate it the same as where this is where it gives me insulin. So this has to move every 3 to 5 days, and I need to do a better job of that because I lean more on the 5-day side of things. And it's cool and all, especially because I still have insulin in there, but the reason why they want you to change it sooner is first so that your insulin is still, it's not expired yet, and sometimes I have to change mine earlier than thought because it'll expire and I can't control my levels. But if you don't change it every 3 to 5 days, you build up too much scar tissue, and the more scar tissue you have, the less absorbent your body's going to be for insulin. So let's go ahead and get this show on the road. So I had to open my menu screen. I have to scroll all the way down to options, all the way down to utilities, sensor settings. Oh wait, I have to do this after I put it on. So that's what I was doing. So I just took it off from here. I charged it while I took a shower, and I don't want to put it on here again because I like on my arms for now because I work with kids and they ask a lot of questions, and it's hard to keep class going of asking a whole bunch of questions. After class, I love answering the questions, but during class, when everything's time sensitive, I'd rather avoid these situations, as well as avoid them accidentally brushing it off, because the kids love to jump onto me and give me hugs, and that's actually how this one halfway ripped off this week. And then I had it holding, like, I had red gym tape holding it up for like 5 days. How I'm gonna do this is I get a box full of 5 of these, and that lasts me a little over a month. And if I mess these up, I'm kind of screwed because they cost like roughly $100, and insurance will only cover like what I'm prescribed to use, and I'm prescribed to use it for 7 days. And so if I accidentally bump it off, I can call them and I can get a replacement. I just had to pay out of pocket for it. Yeah, just a little educational tidbit. So you always want to make sure it's somewhere where it's less likely to fall off or get scraped off, rubbed off, bumped off, whatever. So this is going to be the needle, and I'm just going to prep it with the spring. I want to pull off straight because all that does is make the adhesive active. And then some people have tricks for this, because whenever I first started doing this outside of my endocrinologist's office, I used to accidentally pull it all the way out. And so for this, you want to make sure, like, this part is already sticky, and then this is the protection I have to take off of the adhesive. And yeah, I used to pop them out. And you also want to be careful not to touch the green buttons during this. So hold on to the front and the back, otherwise you're going to stab yourself. So you don't want the needle to come out, but you want to be able to rip it off. Yeah. So, and normally you're not supposed to set it down, but as I'm trying to videotape, I'm realizing that I'm kind of scatterbrained, and so I'm doing this a little out of my normal routine, because I'm attempting to educate whoever's watching. Okay, so I don't want to do my legs for the sake of the video, but I love doing them on my legs because I can hide them under leggings all the time, and it works out pretty well. So for the sake of not being inappropriate on the video, instead of pulling down my pants to do it on my legs, I'm going to try to keep it close to home. And you don't want to keep it like too close to this, because this is where you get the insulin. If it's too close, you're going to have inaccurate readings, because the insulin, for example, if the sensor's here, the insulin has plenty of time to go through my system before it gets an accurate reading, versus if it's right next to it, like right next to it, and it reads it with the insulin in there, it might say that you're crashing, and that could be false. And if you can tell, I don't know if you can see it, there's a dot here for where this was last time. So I'm contemplating my whole life now. I don't want to do it on the back of my hips because, actually, let me check. So you always want to make sure that you put it in some like fatty tissue, because if you put it straight into your muscle, first of all, it's going to hurt, and whenever you flex and release and contract your muscles, you actually like kink the little reader. So I have a little scar tissue, which I also don't want to stab it into scar tissue, not only because it might hurt, but also because there's not efficient blood flow there. Screw it. We're gonna do it right here. So this one might hurt, and I might have to redo this whole video. So if I get to post this one, you guys, this will be a huge, like, accomplishment. So of course, I'm wiping it with alcohol to prevent any infections, since I'm gonna keep it on there for 7 days. By the way, I'm really feeling this, all these songs in the background. This playlist is hitting. I have to calm down because I know that I've had diabetes for almost 7 years, but I still just like get worked up every time because I just think about the worst possible outcome. But I mean, whatever. It's better than being in the ICU for a whole week again. See, it really wasn't that bad. It's just, it looks really bad because it's really big and intimidating. So, it already kind of hurts, so I might have to take this one out. But we're gonna see. Maybe when I take the needle out, it won't hurt as much. But that's actually the needle right there. And before I take the needle out, I want to make sure that the adhesive surrounding it sorry, I'm just checking on it to make sure that this is going to be a good spot. Okay, it was just that also if I freak myself out and I tense up my muscles whenever it goes in, like I said earlier, the muscle's not the best. And I realized that maybe I lost a couple pounds since the last time I did it on my stomach. Now, whenever you take the needle out, you want to be sure to hold on to the sides. Otherwise, I don't know, can you see it? You want to hold on to the sides. Otherwise, it'll rip out the actual thing reading your stuff. That's the needle, bro. And I also have to look and see. It's really red, so it's irritated. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe I should have done it on the back of my hips. But only time will tell. And it's not bleeding, so sometimes you'll hit it and it'll hurt and it's just gushing out blood, and you have to take that one out because whenever that blood dries in all of the areas that it shouldn't be in, it'll throw off the accuracy of your reading. Hopefully this video will upload 12 minutes to Facebook. So now that I have that on, these are my patches to hold it on because that is not going to hold it for 7 days. We'll see how this goes. So, so this is actually just the part that goes under my skin, and this is the actual sensor, transmitter, I guess sensor transmitter, whatever. So, I want to put this one on the top, as well as a little bit of the patch underneath the transmitter. Okay. And then connecting the sensor. Once I connect this, typically I'll get an alert on my pump asking if I'm ready to warm up my sensor. And I think it's anywhere from an hour to 2 hours depending on how stable my levels are when you're trying to get an accurate calibration. Okay, and then this one goes on top. This one still hurts a little bit, so if I end up having to take this one off early, this one might also turn out just to have inaccurate readings, which in that case, the pump company will pay for me to get new ones if the equipment is faulty, but if it's on the user's fault of mistreating it, you don't get extras. So if you know a diabetic, always know where their sensor and where their insulin pump is, because if you ever rip it out, you might ruin their whole day. And maybe you might financially mess them up for 2 weeks at minimum. There we go. Voila. And then my pump should have given me alert already. That's a different thing. That's a different thing. It's giving me all of these other notifications. So it says sensor connected, scroll down. You can either do reconnect a sensor, so if sometimes whenever I take hot showers, it'll disconnect the transmitter to my insulin pump, and so I have to redo it that way, but I would do reconnect. And then this one, clearly, I just put it on, so I'm going to do start new sensor, warm up started, and it'll update me when a calibration is needed. So it'll kind of give me this during the whole entire, this loading bar, for the next hour or so. And then I calibrate it so that it gives an accurate reading. And then train of thought. Then 4 hours after that is whenever I have to calibrate it again so that it can go to auto safe mode. And whenever it does that is basically if my insulin pump reads that my levels are starting to trend downwards, it'll give me less and less and less insulin, but at all times it still has to give me a bare minimum, unless I suspend it myself. So I always have to be aware of it. And then if my glucose starts to trend upwards, it'll give me, I don't know how much extra, but there's a limit on how much extra it can give me to try to assist it going back into range. Other than that, the majority of the time, it is up to me to correct it, as well as to know the different types of food I'm eating, because there's a lot of ignorance of, diabetics can't have sugar, and it's like, no, I actually need sugar or I could die. And then people try to give you too much sugar, and it's like, no, if I eat too much of that, I'm going to go into a coma. So it's all about balance and knowing where your levels are at, what activity you're doing, and basically, yeah, I'm probably just going to repeat myself at this point, so I'm going to conclude this video in saying thank you guys for watching at least 16 minutes into this video already. And if you know a diabetic in your life, please reach out to them and let them know that you're there to listen to them, because sometimes all we have to do is complain and then we can move on. But with this autoimmune disease, it is actually quite difficult that everybody sees us as this and we look totally fine, and unless you see our insulin pump, you would never know anything was wrong. And sometimes we're crashing and about to go into a seizure, and sometimes we look totally fine and people will think that we're overreacting, and it's an invisible illness. So yeah, I didn't realize that the dog was on the bed. Okay, thanks for watching.